Okay, so the first thing is to, this is a target 3B slope video. We have to determine if line 1 and line 2 are either parallel, perpendicular, skew, or neither. Okay, so to figure that out, we have to figure out what the slopes are. So if you can't find the slopes, you're not going to solve this problem, and you're not going to get it right. So you have to find the slope. So I'm going to say M. M, remember, means slope, so I'm looking for the slope of line 1. And I'm going to use the slope formula. Remember, that's y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So it's pretty easy. It's just a difference in the y's divided by the difference in the x's. So here's x1 and y1. Those are x and y from point 1. And x and y from point 2. So x2 and y2. So now I'm just going to plug it into the formula. y2 is negative 2. I'm going to subtract from that y1, which is 4. And then x2, which is negative 2. And I'm going to subtract from that negative 4. So I have a minus. Remember, minus and minus is a plus. So negative 2 minus 4 is negative 6. And negative 2 plus 4 is 2. And negative 6 over 2 is 3. So the slope of line 1 is 3. Now I'm going to look for the slope of line 2. So the slope of line 2, and I'll use another color. So let's go with blue. This is x1, y1, x2, y2. So x and y from point 1 for 5 and 7, x and y from point 2 for 7 and 1. And remember, again, the formula is right here, y2, so y2 is 1. So 1 minus y1, y1 is 7, over x2, x2 is 7, and then the formula says minus, so I have to subtract minus x1, which is 5. And 1 minus 7 is negative 6. And oh, I made a mistake. And 7 minus 5 is 2. And negative 6 divided by 2 is negative 3. Here's my mistake. Negative 6 divided by 2 is negative 3. So these both have a slope of negative 3. I made a mistake up here. It should have been negative 3, not just 3. So negative 3 and negative 3, they're equal. So remember, we had a theorem. Let's go ahead and write that down. We'll do it in yellow so you can see it up here. Not yet. Okay, parallel lines have equal slopes, and perpendicular lines their slopes are negative reciprocals. Or opposite reciprocals. So these slopes, let me get a good pen here, they are equal. This is negative 3 and this is negative 3. The slopes are equal. If they have equal slopes, right here, equal slopes, then the lines are parallel. So I can say they're parallel, so I'm going to choose A, and it's because the slopes are equal. So we have a test for parallel, we have a test for perpendicular. If the slopes are equal, it's parallel. If the slopes are negative reciprocals, okay, we're going to do a negative reciprocal problem in a minute so you see what those are, then they're perpendicular. We don't have a test for skew, so it's not going to be skew. So we're always going to get either parallel, perpendicular, or neither. Skew is just a trick, okay? Alright, so let's do this. And before we go on, I want to talk about what a negative reciprocal is. So let me grab another color. How about yellow? Go here, yellow, there we go. How about negative 2, 3? Sorry, negative 2/3. The negative reciprocal of that would be flip it over. So instead of 2 over 3, we'd have 3 over 2, and I changed the sign. It was negative, now it's positive. If I had positive 4, that would really be 4 over 1. If I flip it over, I get 1/4, and then I change the sign, so it would be negative 1/4. Those are negative reciprocals. So remember, that's what negative reciprocals mean. Okay. All right. So we need to determine if line 1 and line 2 are parallel, perpendicular, or neither. So I'm going to find the slope of line 1. And remember, it's y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. And y2, so x1, y1, x2, y2, is 4, and then always a minus. And y1 was a 1, so y2 minus y1, and then x2 is 6. Always a minus, but x1 is a negative 3, so I have a minus, which is a plus. 4 minus 1 is 3. 6 plus 3 is 9. That can be reduced to 1 over 3. So the slope of line 1 is 1/3. Now the slope of line 2, and a new color, x1, y1, x2, y2. So it's 4 y2 minus y1, which is negative 2, so it's always minus, but a negative 2, so it's a minus, and then x2, which is negative 4, and then minus x1, which was also a negative 2, minus a minus gives me a plus. So here I have positive 4 plus 2, which is 6, and negative 4 plus 2, which is negative 2, and 6 divided by negative 2 is negative 3. Now, notice that this is negative 3 over 1. Are negative 3 over 1 and 1/3 negative reciprocals? They are, so that means they're perpendicular. And the reason is their slopes are negative reciprocals. Reciprocals of one another, right? So if their slopes are negative reciprocals, that means the lines are perpendicular. That's how I knew. Okay, number 4, I said you may use a graph to help you if you need it, but you know what? I'm not going to, you can use a graph, you can use it, but I'm not going to have you graph it this time, so you don't have to worry about graphing. All you have to do is write the equation of a line passing through it. Okay, so to do this, we need a point. Here's my point, that's x, and this is y, and then I need the slope. So I know I'm finding another line. I'm not finding this line. Okay? Now I'm finding the line that's parallel to this line right here, parallel to that line, but goes through this point instead. So remember, I know that parallel lines have the same slope. So the slope I'm going to use is 2. And I'm going to use this point, negative 1, 1. And that's x, and that's y. That's the x, that's the y value, right? And then I'm going to use this formula, y equals mx plus b. So I'm going to plug in what I know. Okay, so what I know is that y is 1, so I'm going to replace y with 1. I also know that m is 2, so I'm going to replace m with 2. And then x, it says 2 times x, so I'm going to put x in parentheses, and x is negative 1, so I'm going to replace x with negative 1. And now I've got to find b. That's my job, find b. So 2 times negative 1 is negative 2 plus b. How do I get b by itself? Well, I add 2. And I get 3 is equal to b. Now, that's not my answer. I saw a lot of you just say b is equal to 3, and you think that's the answer. That's not the answer. The answer is this equation. So I'm going to write it right here. And I have to put it in y equals mx plus b form. Now I know that m is what? Right here it was 2. And I know that b is what? And right here I found it. B was 3. So that must mean my answer is y equals mx plus b. So y equals m, but remember m was just 2, x plus b, and what was b? 3. So that's my answer. Y equals 2x plus 3. Okay? So now I'm going to do the same thing over here. Okay, but this time it's a little different. Instead of finding a line that's parallel, I'm finding a line that's perpendicular to this line. So I'm going to look right here and I'm going to say, okay, the slope of this line is -2 over 1. But the slope I'm going to use, and I'll do this in red, is a negative reciprocal because my line is perpendicular to this line. So when I flip it over, I get 1 over 2, and instead of being negative, it becomes positive. So the slope I'm going to use is 1/2. And I'm going to use a point that they gave me, 2 and 3. So this is x and this is y. And remember I use y equals mx plus b. So I'm going to replace. Y is 3, m is 1/2, x is 2, plus b. So I get 3 equals, well, what is 1/2 times 2 over 1? Well, that's 2 over 2 plus b. Well, what is 2 over 2? 1. So I get 3 equals 1 plus b. Subtract 1 from both sides, and I get b is equal to 2. So remember, y equals mx plus b. But remember, I know my m was 1/2, and my b is 2. So now I'm going to plug it in. Y equals 1/2 x plus 2. And that's my answer. Now, there's no, this plus 2 and that plus 2, that's a coincidence. There's no relation. That doesn't always happen. Okay? And I know back here on this one, this was a -3 and that was a +3. That doesn't always happen. This could be 3 and the next one could be 27. It doesn't matter, right? No correlation at all. Okay, so here that you try to remember Math Lab, Help Lab, Geometry Support, Tutorial Support, at home. You can do these on a computer, on your phone, whatever, right? You got to bring in these problems to one of the teachers or your geometry teacher and have them check it to make sure it's right. And then they'll give you the form to do the retake. Then you got to come in and do the retake. So here's problems 1 and 2. Here are problems 3 and 4. And then finally 3, and here's 4. And here is 5. And I said here to graph both lines and label. I don't want you to graph both lines. Okay, we're just going to find the equation. We're not going to worry about the graphing. Okay? Good luck.